It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays. And oh God, that freaking hurt to sing the Wellness Wednesdays song. It's been a rough stretch, guys. This is why I'm talking about this is, just dealing with ish, right? Dealing with it. Um I've been talking a lot on the Discord about what's been going on lately in my life. I'll try to summarize it. My father-in-law was ailing for a while. Um, uh, I'll spare the gory details, but for one reason or another, certain family members have decided to score settle and fight at hospitals and ban me from the funeral, deliberately leave me out of the obituary. Um, and yeah, the funeral was 2 days ago, and it was overwhelming drama because, of course, the minute the obituary came out and I wasn't on it, my DMs started going and people wanted to know what was going on and people were contacting me as far away as Israel, and it's like people in Tel Aviv who are literally having rockets shot at them are messaging me about this. I mean, part of the problem is it's stupid. It is dumb shit. The fight is not about what the fight's about. And it got so dumb that yesterday, this was not something I was directly involved with, but somebody threatened to call the police on someone because they took a baby blanket with their name embroidered on it. Their name was literally embroidered on it because their grandparents gave it to them as a kid, and they were accused of theft. Like, it's like a bunch of middle class people with clearly not enough real problems um acting like the Targaryens from House of the Dragon right after Viserys dies, and the Ewings from Dallas is just like, but one of my buttons is being targeted with just stuff that is nonsense. And one of the things these toxic family members are doing is repeating the stuff that stalker I have is spewing, cause apparently they're still in touch with her. Awesome. And so obviously that's quite um a thing, and it has really tested distress tolerance. It has, I mean, the sheer just amount of gossip. I don't do well with gossip, and the amount of cognitive load it's taking to talk to people and appreciate that they do. I mean, the people calling are sincerely concerned. It's absolutely well meaning. It's just I have to be so careful about what I say because it is so acrimonious, and this is stuff that I'm not directly involved with. I'm just an easy person to kick. Um, and it's just hitting a bunch of buttons. It's hitting a bunch of things that I know I don't handle well. And so I have had to um, work and go on and deal with people I haven't talked to in years while I'm in active threat response mode. And it's very, the combination of grief and threat. Um, That's a real thing. And this is where I get people going, why are you still doing this then? Why are you recording videos? Just because for me, the routine of doing stuff and engaging with people who don't think I'm scum of the earth and who do think I'm a human being that they just can't kick every time they're feeling, you know, I think a big part of why everything is so nuts is that this is a group of people who don't know how to grieve. They don't know how to feel sad. They don't know how to relinquish control over things. And so they are just lashing out. And it doesn't make any sense beyond that. Maybe it doesn't need to. That's enough of a and this is when it's really easy for your brain to go, oh, did I do something? Could I handle that better? And that's the point where you have to go, nope, stop, do something to engage, because no matter what you did, their behavior was poor. And this is how you handle threat response. And the awesome thing about threat response is because of the stress hormones that course through your body, you're both exhausted, but you can't actually sleep because your body's in overdrive. So you sleep for 3 hours at a time, and you can have very strange dreams, intrusive thoughts. And the best thing to do is just do things that can help you engage tasks, one foot in front of the other, go through as much of the daily routine you can do without going into, a full disassociative state. And for some odd reason, people who had access to the information in the Discord server decided to take cracks at me this week too. And I handled it, which I'm really proud of. Because there were a few instances where that drama was going on where I was like, I probably shouldn't be online right now, but none of the other moderators were there. And then of course people get critical of how I handle it, again, knowing what's going on. And this is all about practice, dealing with life when you are an active threat response. And, people aren't thinking, and they're pushing too hard. And again, well-meaning, but they're not thinking, hey, maybe this isn't the time to criticize someone, or worse, the thing that's been getting me are the people that are clearly looking to criticize a way I handled something, but are trying to be nice about it. I know that's the way you're supposed to do it. It's just really resisting the fight response. And that's what I want to talk about for the rest of this video, how to handle that. And you notice I'm saying active threat response and not triggered, because I think it is important to understand what the whole idea of a trauma trigger is. An active threat response, quite frankly, is the best way to go about it. And it is a term that doesn't have that stink of being misused yet. So we're going to see how this goes. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone you can use but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK, or directly support the Discord stuff. GoFundMe for now. We're working on revamping that. So here's what you do. Because one of the things about trauma, and one of the things about living with trauma, is that there's two main prongs to being functional. And one is the day-to-day, getting the good habits. So, when the bumps hit, when you're not feeling good, when you know you're compromised, you know what to do. That takes the apprehension and the feeling that you are broken and a burden so much lower when you know what to do, when you realize you're in freeze, fight, fawn, or flight mode. And I have been cycling through all four of late. It's just been, I don't get this blame thing. I don't, and part of it is that, I've done team management for a really long time, and I know that the training is, don't do these things. When you're up, elite entertainment, elite athletes, you don't pick at someone when they're in the middle of it. If you can stop them from making a worse mistake, okay, but they're not in a place to hear it at that moment. So why bother? There's just going to be an explosion. And it's the need to criticize, the need to be right is just so part of my post-traumatic growth. And this is something that's really misunderstood about me. Part of my post-traumatic growth is just embracing that some people are going to think I'm a villain no matter what I do. People are going to take the absolute worst version of what I do, and I can't do anything about it. It's the reality of being even remotely public. And it would be nice to be a person who is popular and well-liked and given the benefit of the doubt and not criticized on a daily fucking basis, but that is not the lot I drew in life. And just because people are criticizing you doesn't mean they're right. Just because people think you did something wrong doesn't mean they actually have a better way to do it. And the average person does not do well dealing with unpleasantness, dealing with conflict. And, my approach is very much have the small fight now so you avoid the big fight later. And that takes some training because people get so freaked out at the small fight that it doesn't stay small. And that's why people end up threatening to call the cops because a person took a baby blanket with their name embroidered on it. Like that is a sign of, if you're doing that, it is time to step back and recognize the problem is you. And that is a very, very difficult part of trauma therapy. Trauma, it's not recovery, but the reorganizing that you do after a profound trauma. And when you do find yourself stuck, you do have to realize that something about the way you're going about things isn't working. And people have probably gotten sick of me saying lately, criticism noted. Because, I'm not going to pretend I appreciate it right now, because I don't. It's not helpful. Because nobody asks me why I did things before they offer, helpfully, an alternative. But that's what people do. That's what people do. And, I can not accept it. Well, I can accept that they have criticized me. And I can accept that criticism is not an attack. I don't have to agree with the criticism, nor do I have to do anything about it. And it was so weird, the number of people who thought I should show up to the funeral anyway, after I was told that if I showed up, I would be removed by security. Why would I knowingly be party to a conflict at a funeral? Well, you have the right to be there. It's like, what? It's it's not it's not the fucking Oscars. It's not a black tie dinner with the prime minister. It's a fucking funeral. This is supposed to be about easing grief and helping move past the loss. This is not about this crazy shit. And, I've been getting a lot of, it's not right, it's not right, it's not right. And it's not right. But sometimes shit happens in life. And, I learned through many, many years that trying to control things too tightly, not just accepting that some things happen and they are unfair, and some things happen and you do get falsely blamed, and that can stick, and life goes on, you know? But then there's the other side that I was talking about when I said, a really tough part of trauma rearranging is to really accept the parts that were my fault back in the day. And I know what I used to do back in the day is go full on fight, show up, make a big thing, do the direct confrontation, and I'd end up getting blamed for even more, because people are very good at manipulating situations, and for whatever reason, bystanders jump to absolutely negative conclusions and don't realize that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. And so I have learned to pull back and realize you don't have to take every challenge. You don't have to be eye of the tiger. Sometimes you can be sleepy little kitty. And some people do use conflict. They use anger. They use aggression to avoid the more vulnerable negative emotions. And I used to do that. I mean, there's a big difference between being legitimately angry and getting angry because you don't want to feel sad or frightened, just as an example. And there's a really useful tool for if you think you do that. It's called the emotions wheel. And it is just a wheel. I'll pull it up here. I'm trying to pull it up without there being a ton of crap on the screen. But you'll see my oh wait, maybe I can yeah, there we go. No, you don't get to see my horrible tab management. But this is an emotions wheel, okay? And this is a really useful thing when you are feeling overwhelmed, because you'll notice the sort of left-ish, the orange to blue side of this wheel, that vigilance, rage, loathing, and grief are very near neighbors, right? So hypervigilance is one of the big pillars of PTSD. And so vigilance can become rage very, very easily. And the purpose of an emotion wheel is for people that have trouble naming their feelings. This helps go, okay, of the, 7 main emotional groups, where am I? Because again, the reason you'll notice that loathing and grief are right next to each other. And the grief, I don't want to feel grief, so I'm going to take it out on that person. I can't stand it. It's all their fault. I feel terrible, right? And so what an emotion wheel does is, what am I actually feeling? And to what, intensity am I feeling it? Because there's, being a little bit sad. And then there's actually grieving. Now, I have some issues with this setup, but it's a good place to start, right? For people who don't have a well-developed emotional vocabulary and therefore become overwhelmed more quickly, this is a really useful tool. Because one of the things I notice is that the people who lose control of their anger most can't admit they're angry. And one of the things I do that really pisses people off, but I keep doing it because it's fucking true, is I point out when they're like, I'm frustrated. It's like, why did you do something that abusive? I was frustrated. There's never an excuse for abusive behavior, But I said, if you're just frustrated, you are expected to be in control of your feelings. And people will not admit they're angry. They will not admit they're enraged because that's a bad feeling. And bad people feel that feeling. And so they don't. Whereas if you notice the rings, anger, you're in control. Rage, you're out of control. Everything in the middle of this ring is an overwhelming state. Inherently overwhelming. Terror's overwhelming. Ecstasy can be overwhelming. Even things like vigilance, admiration can become toxic levels. Grief, loathing, rage, amazement. You're just taken away. Remember the first time you saw one of those early Marvel movies and you just came out, it's like, this is the greatest thing ever, right? That overwhelming thing. When you're in those states, you're not rational. And it's really, really important to recognize that. Because to me, my emotional wheel does not work. Rage is often right next to grief for me. Now they all point in the middle, so you can, cross. But, whenever I feel an intense loss, I tend to waffle between really, really overwhelming sadness and rage. And this is why I say my inner voice is Kratos, because, you see that Kratos is defined by loss, and you feel that loss in the later games, but that's because, at a certain point, you can't just rage anymore. And so since I'm aware of these overwhelming feelings, a lot of the people involved in this whole thing, I can't stand them. And I have to admit that. I loathe them, which means don't try to talk to them. Don't try to be clever. That's the one thing that otherwise intelligent people, there's a difference between intelligence and wisdom, and all of this is wisdom work. Because you can be the smartest person in the world. I watch smart people completely fuck these things up for a living because they think they can outsmart their feelings. And if you are dealing with somebody who you loathe, when you are dealing with somebody who has taken something from you and who makes you uncontrollably angry, who makes you feel rage, inner Kratos, you're not going to be smart where that person is concerned. And that's been what I've been telling myself about some of these people who I'm dealing with of late. Numerous people involved of late have been people where I've said to various parties, I can't be around them. Because if I'm around them, I hate them. And I work very, very hard not to hate people. Hate makes you stupid. And some people respect that. Some people don't. And situations like this give you an opportunity to see who is cool and who knows how to back off and who makes it about them. And so in some ways, these moments of awfulness, there's no way to make the last, well, even month, there's no way to make this month great. One of the people who put up one of those maudlin things on Facebook about my father-in-law passing, we were grateful to spend his last moments with him. And it's like, he was insensate and crying out and having seizures. No one's grateful to have to experience that. It is a duty. And that's a sign of someone who's very out of touch with their emotions. Because no, I'm grateful he's not suffering anymore. Thank God for that, proverbial God. Thanks, Spaghetti Monster. But the idea that you're grateful for the opportunity to have somebody, to see somebody suffering like that, that's not real. That's not authentic. That's not being honest, but that's what you're supposed to say. And when you do have any very serious mental health condition, PTSD is a mental injury, not a mental health, but it doesn't matter in this. BPD, borderline, same thing. Bipolar, that's what I was going for. Avoidant personality, anything like this, even intense depression or anxiety. No one should be dishonest about their emotions. If you have a psychological condition, you can't afford to bullshit about how you're feeling. You must be completely honest and authentic. Now, you don't have to come in at a 10 with everything, because that's not authentic. The same person that was saying they were grateful for those moments, this is a person who didn't know my father-in-law well, certainly didn't know him long. And, they were wailing one of the loudest at the funeral of anyone. So, obviously there's something off there, but it's someone who is displaying what they think they should feel, not what they do feel. And if you want to be a slave to overwhelming emotions, that's about the quickest route you can get. So when you are not feeling great, first thing you have to do is admit it and really check in. Use the emotions wheel, link in the description box below, to figure out just how compromised you are. And then first thing, remind yourself, you don't need to do anything about it. I have had periods in the last week where I've freaked out. Sometimes in front of other people, I apologized for that. And, I'm sorry I couldn't keep it together around them. Am I sorry I couldn't keep it together? No. It's just they didn't deserve to bear the brunt of that. Other times I have been checked out. I have been overwhelmed. I have been nonverbal. I have been doing that 1,000-yard stare at nothing. And there was this one moment where I wanted to put the fucking phone down because it wasn't stopping. And then I realized they were going to text me to let me know about something. And that moment of, fuck, I cannot set a boundary here, this is bad, was just, one of the freak out moments. And that's valid. Human beings are not together all the time. We're not designed for that. The reason we have these strong emotions is that every so often no problem. Learning experience, right? If they happen too often, that is a problem. If you are constantly at your limit, that's not healthy. You know, you should be doing the equivalent of a jog emotionally most of the time, not going all out. And you do deserve that. And that's the other thing is, you know, validating, accept, like knowing what you're feeling, validating your feelings, recognize you don't have to do anything about it. You know, really reminding yourself of where you went in that freeze, fight, fawn, or flight response in the past so you don't replicate the same patterns. So, okay, you tend to fight. Don't fight. Back off, you know. But if you do something that either someone else takes issue with or you actually think was wrong, you wished you'd handled it better, you can acknowledge that without beating yourself up. You know, acknowledging it was a very intense circumstance. It is grief. It is rage. It is loathing. People aren't themselves when they're feeling those things. And being forgiving of yourself is not letting yourself off the hook. It's actually making you more likely to make positive changes instead of twisting yourself into pretzels for other people and not actually improving, not actually getting better. And that's ultimately the goal, is to just do better than you did the last time. And can I say I'm proud of the way I've behaved in the last week? No, I'm too fucking tired. But I am satisfied. You know, I know how many knocks I took. I know how many times I didn't respond in kind. And I know how symptomatic I have been. I know how inactive threat response I have been. And based on that, not perfect baseline, not everything sunshine and roses. Based on that, you know, the actual conditions on the ground. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take how I behaved. And that's, you know, I talk about this stuff and I do the work I do and I do the videos I do because I think so often therapy comes at people as you need to work the steps and there's this perfect place that's, you know, you can get and you'll never have a trauma response again. And no, we have trauma responses for a reason. It's more like, you know, being a recovering alcoholic in that their relapses are part of it. When you slip, you get back up and you get back on the horse and you go back to your routine. And it's part of the reason I'm not a big fan of people counting the sober days with AA. I know they have reasons. I just don't agree with them because I think that with emotions, it's just about how you handle falling. Not never falling. It's just not possible. And, you know, when people just behave badly, you need the strength that comes from acknowledging when you're not at your best and when you did make a mistake. Because if you can acknowledge that in yourself, then you don't second guess things so much when other people are acting like monsters. You know, because no, I accept responsibility. I don't ask anybody else to do something I can't do. And I'm very aware of my limits. And a lot of other people aren't. Because, you know, it just shows that not only are certain other people involved in this not aware of their limits, they're not aware of how they're appearing to other people. I am very aware that people are critical of me. I am aware. But they're also, you know, there's clearly no one who can get through to them and say to them, like, look, I'm concerned about you. You are showing signs of acute stress and signs that you are not coping with that stress, and that stress is real and you don't have to push so hard. And, you know, a lot of people explode when somebody tells them that because they feel like they're being criticized. And is there something I can do to take some of the stress off of you is not criticism. Someone who tells you everything they did wrong, you did wrong before they give you the benefit of the doubt and acknowledge the acute stress someone's under. That's that is, you know, and you can only do your best. Your best will likely not be good enough for the world, but it can be good enough for you. And when you develop that, and this is why I talked about your partner cannot be your stability. No other person can be your stability, because your stability is what you rely on. That was Monday's video. Your stability is what you rely on when all your other supports fail you. It has to be internal. Because in situations like this, you know, you show up, people are going to judge you. You don't show up. Oh, she should have showed up anyway. She clearly doesn't care about him. And yeah, grateful for that. You know I did what I did to minimize conflict. Because, you know, I said to one person, no matter what happened on Monday, he's not going to be any less dead at the end of the day. So it's better to avoid a really ugly incident where I might do something I wasn't proud of because I was too keyed up. You know, and if people want to criticize me for following instructions, that's on them. It has to be enough for you, because it's never going to be enough for the world. And that may sound really depressing, but it's not when it is enough for you. All right. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, for people working through things like this, coffee.com/LeannaK, or the GoFundMe that directly funds our Discord, our groups, so on and so forth. Thanks for watching, and be well. Oh my God, this week.